Final Fantasy might just be the first thing which comes to mind when I think of a Japanese video game. For many people, the franchise is one of, if not the most recognizable game series coming out of Japan. It's not like Japan has a shortage of great and beloved IPs, with the likes of Metal Gear, Persona, Nier, Silent Hill, Yakuza, Kingdom Hearts, and pretty much anything to do with Nintendo or Sega. It really is quite a feat that, despite all of those games, Final Fantasy stands as one of the best and most iconic franchises ever. In some ways, I liken the Final Fantasy series to Star Wars in its name recognition and importance within its industry's culture. More than that, they both started as passion projects by legendary creators long ago and have survived and grown in status over the decades they've been around. This year marks the 35th anniversary of the Final Fantasy IP. Currently awaiting the 16th mainline title, the fanbase has grown to an incredible size, with legions of fans all from different backgrounds and cultures. Makes one wonder what exactly makes Final Fantasy so special above the rest. Hironobu Sakaguchi began his work in the 1980s and released Final Fantasy in 1987. With 15 games released since then and many other spin-offs, it's interesting to consider what has kept people coming back. My first reaction to a Final Fantasy game was one of confusion, believe it or not. I couldn't understand why what I was playing felt so different from everything else. There are plenty of crossover elements that many other games have or have touched on, but there is a special atmosphere to the gaming room when you pop a Final Fantasy disc into the tray. When you hear Uematsu's remastered Prelude song, it transports you to another world like a warm and inviting dream. Put succinctly, it feels like you're listening to a magical doorway open, beckoning you to go on some grand adventure. This one piece of music is so identifiable with Final Fantasy that it's almost always included in the soundtracks of the games. Try to find a better or more iconic fantasy theme that sounds as perfectly suited for its genre as the Prelude theme does. While music is important in establishing an atmosphere and tone of Final Fantasy, it's the worlds and the characters which truly captivate gamers around the globe. Final Fantasy is somewhat unique in gaming as each mainline title is set in its own universe, with new characters and settings wholly separate from the games that came before. However, on occasion, a successful title will get a sequel of its own, such as Final Fantasy X-2 or Final Fantasy XIII-2. Still, I think this is partly the reason for Final Fantasy's phenomenal success. If someone isn't interested in one game's world or story, the next game is effectively a blank slate, a chance to start again and win over those same people. Among the many games the franchise has produced, several games have contributed multiple characters to the long and historic list of beloved video game icons. As you well know, Final Fantasy VII currently still stands as one of the best and most iconic video games of all time. While it may not be my own personal favorite Final Fantasy experience, I will definitely concur with its cultural status. Now, you can definitely argue about the overall success and quality of each of the subsequent entries that followed 7, but I believe you'd find at least a small group of people that would say each of the following games was their respective favorite in the franchise. See, we can each connect with something differently than others. So the beauty in the design of the Final Fantasy franchise is in its variety of settings and subject matter, the large swath of characters to connect with, and the ever-growing group of worlds to explore make this IP more accessible than, say, a Nier or Kingdom Hearts game. That's not meant to knock on either of those franchises. Rather, I like to think it's an explanation of these things within gaming's cultural standing more than anything else. When it comes to the individual level of recognition and appreciation, what is it which drives us to fall in love with this IP? Sometimes it's just one thing, and sometimes it's a combination of all the little things. It's the moments where we rejoice, the moments we cherish, and the moments we remember years later. It's everything about this one very special something. Final Fantasy is probably my favorite of all the big Japanese IPs, because as soon as I've left one world and its characters behind, another arrives to welcome me home. After 35 years, Final Fantasy is still here. It's still loved, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. What makes Final Fantasy so special? For me, it's the journey I take into each world I get to visit, the crazy gameplay moments I experience, and the memories I make along the way. But what about you? Why is Final Fantasy so special to you, the kind viewers of this video? Please let me know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, I ask that you consider liking, subscribing, and clicking that little bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any new videos as soon as they drop. Thanks again, and have yourself a great day.